Most borders divide countries, but in a few rare places the border runs straight through homes, streets, and even bedrooms. Here are the cities that two countries share together. If you want to see what a border gone wrong looks like, visit Barla, a town that's both Belgian and Dutch at the same time. On the map it looks like someone dropped shattered glass and called it a border. The Belgian part, Barla-Hertog, is made of 22 enclaves surrounded by the Netherlands. Inside some of those enclaves are smaller Dutch enclaves again, creating borders that cut through streets, sidewalks, and even cafes. One house literally has its front door in Belgium and the kitchen in the Netherlands. During COVID, residents had to follow two different rule sets depending on which room they were in. When Dutch stores had to close early, they moved their entrance a few meters into Belgium to stay open longer. The borders are marked by white crosses on the pavement. People eat breakfast in one country and go to sleep in another, and it's the most peaceful chaos on earth. A living geography lesson that no one bothered to fix because it works. But if Barla's border is confusing, another city's deadly. A line that turned neighbors into enemies and shaped half a century of history. Few cities defined division like Berlin. After the Second World War, Germany was divided between the Soviet Union, the United States, Britain, and France. Berlin, though deep inside East Germany, was split the same way. A single city divided into East and West, separated by ideology and eventually a concrete wall. The Berlin Wall was built in 1961 and stretched over 155 kilometers around West Berlin, a scar of concrete, barbed wire, and watchtowers. Families were separated overnight, buildings had bricked-up doors facing west, and more than 140 people died trying to cross before it finally fell in 1989. And when the wall came down, Berlin became one again. Even today, the difference remains visible. Architecture, street lights, and population density show where the Iron Curtain once stood. A city once shared by four powers became the symbol of one world divided in two. But not all shared cities come from war. Some are born by accident, like a small town where the US and Canada literally share the same library. In North America, between Quebec, Canada, and Vermont, United States, sits one of the strangest buildings on Earth, the Haskell Free Library and Opera House. It was deliberately constructed in 1904 to sit directly on the international border. The stage of the Opera House is in Canada, the audience sits in the United States, and in the library below, books are in one country and the reading room is in another. A black line runs across the floor marking the border. Local residents use separate entrances depending on which side they live on, and passports are not required inside the building, though technically, stepping across the reading room puts you in another country. The two towns, Stansted and Derby, share streets, families, and even sewage systems, and after 9/11, border controls tightened. Barriers now block roads that once ran freely, but inside the library, the old world still exists. Peaceful reminder that borders can be functional and absurd at the same time. But where Vermont's border is polite, another city's shared line cuts through chaos, a flashpoint where history, politics, and faith collide. Few cities are as contested as Jerusalem. Sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims, it's been conquered, divided, and reclaimed countless times over 3 millennia. Since 1948, Israel and Palestine have claimed it as their capital, and in 1949 the city was split. West Jerusalem under Israeli control, east under Jordan. After the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel captured the eastern half, unifying the city under its rule, but not in the eyes of the world. Today, embassies and governments disagree on where Jerusalem belongs. The old city, just 1 square kilometer in size, contains the Western Wall, a mosque, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, each controlled by a different group, all inside of walls guarded by soldiers. It's a city that lives and breathes religion, history, and conflict, a shared space that no peace deal has ever truly shared. While Jerusalem is fought over by faith, another divided capital is split not by religion or war, but by language. Most people think of Brussels as the capital of Belgium, but it's also that of language. Belgium is divided into two main regions, Dutch-speaking Flanders in the north and French-speaking Wallonia in the south. Brussels sits right between them, officially bilingual but surrounded by Dutch-speaking territory. Street signs appear in both languages. Schools, police, hospitals, and courts operate in two systems. Government buildings switch the language depending on the floor that you're on. Even political parties split along linguistic lines, creating two versions of nearly every major party. Brussels is technically united, yet culturally divided, the only capital city in the world that represents two nations inside of one. But if Brussels is divided by words, one African city is divided by an invisible line, a colonial mistake that turned neighbors into citizens of two countries overnight. Across the Congo River, two cities stare at each other. Kinshasa, capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Brazzaville, capital of the Republic of the Congo. They sit only 1.6 kilometers apart, the closest two capitals in the world. From one city's high-rises, you can see the other's skyline, yet they belong to different nations, colonial histories, and even different languages. Before independence, independence, both sides were part of the same kingdom, and then French and Belgian colonizers split the region in the 19th century, creating two separate Congos, each with its own government, flag, and future. The cities share trade, culture, and families, but crossing the river requires visas and customs checks. It's a border of convenience created by outsiders, and one that locals cross every day despite all the paperwork. But while these African capitals share a river, another pair of cities in Europe share something even more strange: the exact same name. In southern Poland, on the banks of the Olza River, lies Szczecin. On the other side of the Czech Republic lies Český Těšín. They were once the same city until politics split them in two. After the First World War, the old Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed, and Poland and Czechoslovakia both claimed the city. In 1920, the border was drawn through the river, cutting the city in half, and families were separated, schools divided, and bridges closed. Today, both sides thrive separately but stay connected. Residents cross daily for work, shopping, and family, and the architecture remains identical: the same squares, streets, and culture, only the passports have changed. At Christmas, Polish carols echo across to the Czech side, and nobody bothers translating. It's one city that learned to live as two in peace. And if Europe's twin cities share peace, one on the edge of Asia shares something far more volatile: tension between two nations that both refuse to leave. In the center of the island of Cyprus, the capital Nicosia remains split by a wall, the northern half controlled by Turkish Cypriots and the southern by Greek Cypriots. After intercommunal violence in the 60s, a ceasefire line known as the Green Line would be drawn, and it's still there today, patrolled by UN peacekeepers. Barbed wire and sandbags divide the main streets, checkpoints allow crossing with passports, and while tourists shop in cafes on one side, soldiers watch from towers on the other. Even street names change after the checkpoint. It's the last divided capital in Europe, a city that's been frozen since 1974. But if Nicosia shows how borders divide, one final city shows how they unite, a place where three countries meet in the middle of a single town. At the meeting point of Switzerland, France, and Germany, Basel is one of the most international cities in the world. Borders are so close that locals cross them daily for work and shopping without even noticing. Trams in the city run into France and Germany, changing the color of their signs but not the passengers. You can walk through three countries in less than 10 minutes. The airport has terminals in two nations, both Switzerland and France, and travelers have to move between them through customs corridors without leaving the building. The three countries overlap seamlessly in the city, proof that shared cities don't always mean division. Sometimes they mean cooperation that works better than any treaty. Borders are supposed to separate, but in these cities they don't. They cut through bedrooms, libraries, capitals, and rivers, reminders that geography doesn't always follow logic. But they all prove one thing: no matter how governments divide the world, people will always find a way to cross the line. The world is full of mysteries, and we're here to crack them. Thanks for watching World Crack. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.